The vast emptiness of space was suddenly interrupted by unusual energy readings at the edge of the solar system. Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station 7 was the first to detect it, a massive collection of objects decelerating into the outer reaches of humanity's cosmic neighborhood. "Sir, you need to see this," said Tech Officer Bryant, his eyes fixed on the screen showing the anomalous readings. Station Director Paul Walker leaned forward, adjusting his glasses. "How many objects are we talking about?" "At least 50 large vessels, sir. And they're broadcasting something." The message came through distorted at first, a repeating pattern that the computers gradually decoded into a universal mathematical sequence, followed by more complex data. It wasn't long before Earth's combined scientific community confirmed what seemed impossible. An alien fleet had arrived, and they were asking for help. 3 days later, the Earth Space Command vessel, Horizon, approached the mysterious fleet. Captain James Reed stood on the bridge, watching as the alien ships came into visual range. They were enormous, each one at least a mile long, with strange, crystalline structures protruding from sleek hulls. But even to an untrained eye, they appeared damaged. Several had visible breaches in their outer shells, while others drifted at odd angles. "All systems ready for first contact protocols," Captain reported his second-in-command, Officer Lisa Martinez. Reed nodded. "Open the channel using the response patterns they provided." The main screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike anything humans had imagined. The alien had smooth, pale blue skin with silvery patterns that seemed to shift with its movements. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, blinked independently at the human crew. "I am Krell, Admiral of the Torelli Exodus Fleet." The alien spoke, its words translated through the hastily assembled communication system. "We thank you for answering our call." Reed stepped forward. "I'm Captain James Reed of Earth Space Command. We received your distress signal. How can we help?" The alien's upper eyes closed briefly. What Reed would later learn was a gesture of relief. "Our fleet is damaged beyond our ability to repair. We were passing through what you call the Oort cloud when we encountered an unexpected radiation storm. Our shields failed." The camera view widened, showing the interior of the alien vessel. Behind Krell, Reed could see other Torelli tending to what appeared to be injured. Some lay motionless on strange floating platforms. "We have lost nearly 1/5 of our population already," Krell continued. "Our life support systems are failing. Our journey began 3 of your Earth years ago, when our star began to destabilize. We are refugees." Reed felt the weight of the moment. Humanity's first contact with an alien species wasn't about cultural exchange or scientific discovery. It was a rescue mission. "Admiral Krell, we'll need to assess your ship's damage and see what resources we can provide," Reed said. "With your permission, we'd like to send over a team of engineers." "Granted, Captain Reed. But I must warn you, our technology is likely very different from yours." Hours later, Reed floated through the alien ship alongside Dr. Alex Morgan, Earth's leading xenobiologist, and Chief Engineer Marcus Torres. The interior of the vessel was cavernous, designed to house thousands of beings for what appeared to be a multi-generational journey. Torres whistled as he scanned the propulsion systems. "Captain, I've never seen anything like this. They're using principles we've only theorized about." "Can we help them?" Reed asked bluntly. Torres exchanged glances with Dr. Morgan. "Their tech is advanced, but the principles are understandable. The biggest issue is scale. They need materials we don't typically produce in such quantities." Reed looked through a viewport at the fleet of damaged ships stretching into the darkness. Earth had never faced a humanitarian crisis of this magnitude, let alone one involving another species. "Send everything we've gathered to Earth," Reed decided, "and tell Admiral Krell we're going to help them." Somehow, 2 weeks after first contact, the situation aboard the Torelli fleet had grown more desperate. Captain Reed and his team had established a temporary base on the flagship, working around the clock to understand the aliens' technology. "Their power cores are unlike anything we've seen. Chief Engineer Torres explained, pointing to the holographic display. They use a form of controlled fusion that's incredibly efficient, but the containment systems were damaged during the radiation storm. Reed rubbed his tired eyes. And without those systems, the cores will eventually destabilize. When they do, Torres didn't need to finish the sentence. The door to the makeshift command center slid open, and Dr. Morgan entered with Admiral Krell. The alien leader moved slowly, conserving energy like most of his people now did. "Captain Reed, my engineers have finished the fleet-wide assessment you requested," Krell said. "The news is worse than we feared." Reed gestured to the meeting table, and they gathered around it. Krell's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of distress that the humans had learned to recognize. 32 of our 53 vessels have critical damage to their life support systems. We've consolidated our people onto the 21 functioning ships, but those systems were not designed for such numbers. Krell placed a small device on the table that projected images of overcrowded ship compartments. "We've lost another 8,000 since your arrival." The room fell silent. Reed exchanged glances with his team. "Admiral, with your permission, I'd like to bring in more specialists from Earth," Reed said finally. "And I believe it's time we discussed bringing your fleet closer to our planet." Krell's silvery markings pulsed. "You believe your world would welcome us so close?" Before Reed could answer, a transmission from Earth interrupted them. The face of Director Anna Miller, head of the newly formed Interspecies Crisis Response Team, appeared on screen. "Captain Reed, I've reviewed your team's findings," she said without preamble. "The United Earth Council has made a decision. We're mobilizing all available resources to assist the Torelli fleet." Reed felt a wave of relief. "That's good news, Director." Miller nodded. "We've already begun converting production facilities to manufacture compatible components based on Torres specifications. But there's a complication." The camera panned to show a large crowd outside what appeared to be a government building. People held signs with messages like "Earth First" and "Alien Deception." "General Thomas Ward is leading opposition to the rescue effort," Miller explained. "He's convinced a portion of the public that this is either a hoax or an invasion strategy." Reed frowned. "What's his evidence?" "He doesn't need evidence, just fear," Miller replied grimly. "Nevertheless, the Council has approved bringing the Torelli fleet into high Earth orbit, where we can better assist them. We're preparing Jupiter Station as a staging area." After the transmission ended, Reed turned to find Krell studying him intently. "Your species is divided on helping us," the Admiral observed. "Some humans fear what they don't understand," Reed admitted. "But most of us want to help. The question is whether we can do enough, quickly enough." That evening, Reed stood at a viewport watching as human shuttlecraft delivered the first batch of emergency supplies to various Torelli ships. Dr. Morgan joined him silently. "They're remarkable," she said after a while. "Their entire civilization packed into these ships. Their art, history, science, all of it carried with them across the stars." Reed nodded. "And now it's all at risk." "I've been studying their medical data," Morgan continued. "Their physiology is surprisingly adaptable. They could potentially survive on Earth if necessary, with some accommodations." Reed turned to her. "You think it might come to that?" "I think we need to consider every option. Some of these ships won't make it much longer, James, even with our help." In the distance, one of the damaged Torelli vessels flickered as its power grid temporarily failed. Emergency systems kicked in seconds later, but the message was clear. Time was running out. Reed straightened his uniform. "Tell Torres to prepare the horizon. We're going to escort the first group of ships toward Earth immediately. The rest can follow once we've established the route." As he issued orders to his crew, Reed couldn't help wondering what awaited them when they arrived home with 50 alien ships in tow. The United Earth Council chamber buzzed with tension as Director Anna Miller stood before the emergency assembly. Behind her, a massive screen displayed the current position of the Torelli fleet, now beginning its slow journey toward Earth orbit. "Ladies and gentlemen," Miller began, her voice steady despite her exhaustion, "we have 30 days before the first Torelli ships reach Earth. In that time, we need to solve problems our species has never faced before." She gestured, and the display changed to show technical schematics. The Torelli power cores use a fusion process similar to our experimental reactors, but with containment technologies we've only theorized about. To save their fleet, we need to adapt our manufacturing capabilities to produce components that didn't exist on Earth a month ago. From the back of the room, General Ward stood up. "And what assurances do we have that, once we repair their ships, they won't turn those power cores into weapons? One malfunctioning core could devastate a continent." Miller met his gaze directly. "The Torelli have shared their complete technical database with us, General. They're putting their survival in our hands. That requires more trust than we're showing them." After Ward sat down, Miller outlined the plan. Earth's largest manufacturing centers would be converted to produce the specialized materials needed. Space stations around Earth would be expanded to create temporary habitats for Torelli who needed immediate evacuation from the most damaged ships. As the meeting ended, Miller found herself face to face with Ward in the corridor. "You're making a mistake, Anna," he said quietly. "These aliens appear at our doorstep with technology centuries beyond ours, and you want to invite them home for dinner. We've scanned their ships thoroughly, Thomas. They're refugees, not invaders." Ward's expression hardened. "Just remember, when this goes wrong, it's on your head." Aboard the Horizon, which now traveled alongside the lead Torelli ship, Captain Reed reviewed the latest updates with Admiral Krell. "Director Miller has secured global cooperation," Reed explained. "Factories across Earth are retooling to build the components you need." Krell's markings pulsed with what Reed had come to recognize as hope. "Your people work together despite their differences. This is unexpected. Crisis has a way of uniting us," Reed replied, though he thought of Ward's opposition. Their conversation was interrupted when Torres entered with an excited expression. "Captain, I think we found a solution for the damaged power cores," he said, spreading diagrams on the table. "We can't replicate their exact technology, but we can create a hybrid system using our fusion research combined with their containment principles." Reed studied the designs. "Will it be stable enough for long-term use?" "That's the beauty of it," Torres explained. "It's actually more stable than their original design when using materials available in our solar system." Their system was optimized for elements common in their home system. Krell examined the diagrams, all four eyes widening. "This could work. It would require adapting our ship systems, but it could work." For the first time since the rescue operation began, Reed felt genuine optimism. Back on Earth, Miller stood in the newly constructed Interspecies Coordination Center, watching as thousands of workers assembled the first components of the hybrid power cores. "Production is at 180% of projected capacity," her assistant reported. "People are volunteering for extra shifts. Many are bringing their own tools from home to help." Miller nodded, touched by humanity's response. On screens around the room, she could see similar efforts taking place in manufacturing centers across the globe. A notification chimed, and Miller's expression grew serious as she read the message. "There's been an incident at the Singapore facility," she told her team. "Someone sabotaged the containment ring production line. Security footage shows military-grade equipment was used." "Ward?" someone asked. Miller didn't answer directly. "Double security at all facilities, and get me a direct line to Captain Reed. We need to warn him that not everyone wants this rescue to succeed." As she walked to the communications room, Miller glanced at the main display showing the Torelli fleet's approach. The first ships would reach Earth in 27 days. She hoped that would be enough time to overcome both the technical challenges and the human resistance to saving an alien civilization. Captain Reed stood before the view screen on the Horizon's bridge, watching as Earth grew larger in the distance. The first 6 Torelli ships followed behind, their damaged hulls reflecting the sun's light. These were the most critical cases, vessels whose life support systems were hours away from complete failure. "Captain, we're receiving a priority transmission from Director Miller," Officer Martinez reported. Miller's face appeared on screen, her expression grim. "James, we have a situation. 3 of our production facilities have been sabotaged in the past week. The Singapore incident was just the beginning." Reed felt his stomach tighten. "Ward, we can't prove it yet, but yes, we believe so. His Earth protection movement has gained more followers than we anticipated." Miller lowered her voice. "They've hacked into communication networks, spreading doctored footage that makes the Torelli look aggressive. That's absurd. The Torelli can barely maintain their own ships, let alone pose a threat." "Fear doesn't respond to facts, James," Miller sighed. "I'm sending you updated landing coordinates. We've had to relocate the reception facilities to more secure locations." After the transmission ended, Reed turned to find Admiral Krell standing in the doorway. The alien leader had clearly overheard the conversation. "Your people fear us that much?" Krell asked quietly. Reed hesitated before answering. "Not all of us. Just a vocal minority led by someone who sees threats everywhere. On our world, before the evacuation, we faced similar resistance," Krell said. "Some believed we should fight for our dying planet rather than flee. They could not accept the end of one chapter and the beginning of another." Before Reed could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Martinez's hands flew across her console. "Captain, we've detected 5 small craft approaching at high speed from the lunar base. They're not responding to hails, and their weapon systems are active. Battle stations, alert the Torelli vessels to increase their distance from us," Reed ordered, "and get me a direct line to whoever is commanding those ships." The screen flickered to show a young man in a uniform without insignia. "This is Commander Wilson of the Earth Protection Force. The alien vessels will halt their approach immediately or be fired upon." Reed leaned forward. "This is Captain James Reed of Earth Space Command. You are in violation of direct orders from the United Earth Council. Stand down immediately." Wilson's expression hardened. "We don't recognize the Council's authority on this matter. General Ward has declared a state of emergency. These aliens will not reach Earth." The transmission cut off. Reed turned to his weapons officer. "Target their engines only. We need to disable, not destroy." "Sir, they're accelerating and spreading out to target the Torelli ships," Martins reported. "Intercept course. Put us between them and the Torelli," Reed commanded. The Horizon surged forward, its engines straining as it maneuvered to shield the vulnerable alien vessels. The 5 attacking craft began firing warning shots, energy blasts illuminating the darkness of space just ahead of the Torelli ships. "Sir, they're demanding we move aside," Martinez said. Reed's jaw tightened. "Send this message. Any attack on the Torelli vessels will be considered an attack on Earth Space Command. I will not allow civilians under our protection to be harmed." For several tense minutes, the Horizon maintained its protective position. Finally, the attacking ships broke formation and retreated toward the moon. "They're withdrawing, Captain," Martins reported, relief evident in her voice. Reed nodded, but his expression remained grave. "For now. But Ward won't give up so easily." Later, in his quarters, Reed reviewed security footage Miller had sent from Earth. Protests were growing outside spaceports and production facilities. News channels were filled with debate about the alien threat. In one clip, General Ward stood before a crowd, his voice booming. "They arrive with technology beyond our understanding, in ships that could flatten our cities, and we welcome them with open arms. This isn't charity, it's surrender." Reed switched off the screen and stared out his viewport at the stars. The first Torelli ships would reach Earth orbit tomorrow. He wondered what kind of welcome awaited them. The Torelli flagship Eternal Light moved slowly through space, surrounded by 5 other critical vessels. Captain Reed stood on its command deck beside Admiral Krell, watching as Earth grew from a bright star to a blue-green sphere. After weeks of preparation, the most damaged ships were finally approaching their destination. "Your world is beautiful," Krell remarked, all four eyes fixed on the view screen. "The color reminds me of the southern seas of our home planet." Reed nodded. "I hope you'll get to see it up close soon." The ship shuddered suddenly, and warning lights flashed across control panels. A Torelli technician called out in their language, hands moving quickly over the controls. "Power fluctuation in the main core," Krell translated. "The containment field is weakening again." Reed activated his communicator. "Torres, we need you in the main engineering bay immediately." Within minutes, Torres and a team of human engineers were working alongside Torelli technicians, fighting to stabilize the failing power core. Reed watched the efficiency with which they now worked together. Humans and aliens who couldn't communicate a month ago, now anticipating each other's needs without words. "It's holding," Torres announced finally, wiping sweat from his forehead. "But barely. We need to complete the core replacement within 12 hours or evacuate the ship." Reed nodded grimly. "The first replacement cores should be waiting for us in orbit. We just need to get there." As they returned to the command deck, Reed noticed Krell studying the data tablet with unusual intensity. "Is there something else wrong?" Reed asked. Krell hesitated before answering. "No, quite the opposite. I've been reviewing the schematics your engineers developed for our new power cores. The design is remarkable. Torres is brilliant, but it was a team effort. The design doesn't just repair our systems," Krell continued. "It improves them. Your people combined our technology with principles we never considered." His markings pulsed with excitement. "Captain Reed, these cores could revolutionize energy production on your planet. The efficiency is beyond anything your current systems can achieve." Reed was about to respond when an urgent communication came through from Director Miller. "Captain, we have a critical situation," Miller said, her image flickering on the screen. "Orbital Defense Platform 3 has gone offline and is not responding to commands. We've detected unauthorized personnel aboard." Reed felt a chill. "Ward." "Almost certainly. The platform has weapons capabilities that could target incoming vessels. We're working to regain control, but you need to be prepared for." The transmission cut off abruptly. Reed turned to his communications officer. "Get her back." "I can't, sir. Something's jamming all frequencies." Reed made a quick decision. "Alert the horizon to move into defensive position. Have all Torelli vessels reduce speed and prepare for possible evasive maneuvers." Krell moved closer. "Captain, our ships cannot maneuver quickly in their current condition. If they fire upon us, they won't get the chance," Reed assured him, though he wasn't certain how he would prevent it. Suddenly, all screens in the command center changed to show General Ward's face. "This is General Thomas Ward of the Earth Protection Force," he announced. "The approaching alien fleet has been deemed a threat to planetary security. They will halt their approach immediately or face defensive measures." Reed grabbed the communication controls. "General Ward, this is Captain Reed. These ships contain civilians, families with children. They pose no threat to Earth." Ward's expression remained cold. "You've been compromised, Captain. These aliens possess technology that could destroy our civilization. We've discovered their ships contain energy systems powerful enough to level cities. Those are power cores for their life support systems." Reed shouted. "Then you won't mind if we scan them thoroughly before allowing them any closer," Ward replied. "Halt your approach and prepare for boarding." Reed knew the Torelli couldn't wait. The failing ships needed immediate access to the replacement parts waiting in Earth orbit. "And if we refuse?" Reed asked. Ward's answer was chilling in its simplicity. "Then we will demonstrate that Earth can protect itself." The transmission ended, leaving the command deck in silence. In the distance, Reed could see the orbital platform turning, its weapon systems coming online, and aiming directly at the approaching Torelli fleet. "All Torelli vessels, maintain current course," Captain Reed ordered, his voice steady despite the growing tension. "Horizon, move to intercept position between the defense platform and the fleet." Officer Martinez's voice came through his communicator. "Captain, are you ordering us to shield the Torelli ships with the horizon?" "Affirmative. General Ward needs to understand we're serious." Reed turned to Krell. "I need to return to my ship. Keep your vessels on course, no matter what happens." Minutes later, Reed stood on the horizon's bridge as his ship positioned itself directly in the line of fire. The orbital defense platform loomed ahead, its weapons fully charged and aimed at them. "Open a channel to the platform," Reed commanded. Ward's face appeared on screen again. "Move your vessel, Captain. This is your final warning." "I will not," Reed replied firmly. "If you want to fire on the Torelli, you'll have to fire on an Earth ship first." Ward's expression hardened. "You're making the grave mistake." "No, General. You are." Reed nodded to his communications officer, who activated a secondary channel. "Director Miller now." Suddenly, Ward's image was replaced by Director Miller, standing in the United Earth Council chamber. Behind her stood several military officers and government officials. "General Ward," Miller announced, "by order of the United Earth Council and Earth Space Command High Command, you are relieved of duty effective immediately." Ward's voice came through, outraged. "This is treason. These aliens are no threat to us," Miller cut in. "But you are." She held up a data tablet. "We've recovered communications between you and Quantum Dynamics Corporation. Interesting how a company with billions invested in outdated energy technology would want to prevent the Torelli from sharing their advanced systems with Earth." The chamber behind Miller erupted in murmurs as she continued displaying evidence on large screens. Financial transfers, secret meetings, and security footage of Ward's operatives sabotaging production facilities. "You plan to destroy the Torelli fleet and blame it on a malfunction," Miller continued. "All to prevent technological advances that would make your corporate sponsors obsolete." Miller turned to the camera. "To all personnel on Defense Platform 3, your general has betrayed his oath. Stand down immediately." For several tense moments, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the platform's weapons powered down. "Platform 3 standing down," came a new voice. Captain Jackson assuming command. "We await further orders." Reed exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the past few minutes. "Director Miller, the Torelli flagship needs immediate assistance. Their core is critical." "Understood, Captain. Rescue teams are on their way." Hours later, Reed stood in a vast hangar aboard Earth's largest space station. Around him, human and Torelli engineers worked together, installing the first of the new hybrid power cores into the damaged alien vessel. Director Miller approached, looking exhausted but relieved. "Ward is in custody. His corporate backers are facing charges for conspiracy and sabotage." "What changed?" Reed asked. "How did you get the evidence?" Miller smiled slightly. "We had help from an unexpected source." She gestured toward a young woman standing nearby. "This is Lisa Ward, the general's daughter. She's been working in our xenobiology department. My father hasn't been the same since my mother died," Lisa explained quietly. "When I found out what he was planning, I couldn't let him destroy his own legacy out of fear and greed." Reed nodded respectfully. "That took courage." Their conversation was interrupted by Admiral Krell, who approached with a data crystal in his hand. "Captain Reed." "Director Miller," the alien greeted them. "My people have made a decision. As thanks for your help, we wish to share our complete technological database with Earth." Miller looked stunned. "Your complete database? But that's..." "Everything," Krell confirmed. "Our energy systems, environmental reclamation techniques, medical knowledge, all of it. On our journey, we've seen civilizations fall because they hoarded knowledge instead of sharing it." He handed the crystal to Reed. "My people have a saying, help given freely returns threefold. Today, you risk your lives to save ours. Tomorrow, perhaps our knowledge will help save your world." As Reed accepted the crystal, news screens around the hangar showed crowds gathering in cities across Earth. But unlike the protests days earlier, These people carried signs of welcome for the Torelli visitors. The truth had changed everything. 1 year after the arrival of the Torelli fleet, the landscape of Earth had begun to change. Captain Reed stood at the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony station, watching as the last of the repaired Torelli ships prepared for departure. Their gleaming hulls, now reinforced with Earth-made materials, caught the sunlight as they moved into formation. "Hard to believe it's been a year already," said Director Miller, joining him at the viewport. Reed nodded. "Sometimes it feels like they just arrived. Other times, it feels like they've always been here." Below them, on Earth's surface, the changes were visible even from orbit. Vast areas once brown and barren had begun to show patches of green. The first Torelli environmental reclamation systems had been activated 6 months ago, reversing decades of damage in a fraction of the expected time. "Admiral Krell's transport is docking now," a voice announced over the station's communication system. Reed and Miller made their way to the main docking bay, where a small crowd had gathered. Earth officials stood alongside Torelli representatives, a sight that had become common but still felt remarkable. Admiral Krell entered the bay, his movements more fluid and energetic than when they had first met. The emergency medical treatments developed using combined human and Torelli knowledge had helped his people recover from their long journey. "Captain Reed, Director Miller," Krell greeted them warmly. "Today is a day of both sadness and joy for my people." "We'll miss having you here," Reed admitted. Krell's markings pulsed with what Reed now recognized as amusement. "Not all of us are leaving. 20,000 of my people have chosen to remain on Earth." Miller nodded. "A Harmony settlement in Australia is already thriving. The first interspecies scientific academy opens next month." Krell led them to a quieter area where they could speak privately. "The Torelli Council has made an official decision. We wish to establish permanent diplomatic relations with Earth. Our colony world is only 40 light-years distant, close enough for regular communication." He handed Reed a small device. "This contains the specifications for a communication network that will link Earth to the wider galactic community. There are other species out there, Captain. Peaceful ones, like us, searching for connection. So we're not alone in the universe after all," Reed said softly. "You never were," Krell replied. "But you were isolated. Until now." The station's alert system chimed, indicating it was time for the departure ceremony. In the main hall, hundreds of humans and Torelli had gathered. On screens around the room, millions more watched from Earth and from the departing ships. Director Miller stepped up to the podium first. "1 year ago, we faced a choice: to turn away from those in need or to extend our hands in friendship. That choice has transformed both our worlds." She gestured to the displays showing the environmental restoration projects. "The Torelli have given us the tools to heal our planet. In return, we help them continue their journey. But the most valuable thing we've gained isn't technology, it's perspective." Admiral Krell spoke next. "When our star began to die, we believed we had lost everything. Today, we understand that we found something greater: new friends, new allies, and a second home among the stars." As the ceremony concluded, Reed escorted Krell to his transport. At the airlock, the Admiral paused. "There is something I never told you, Captain," Krell said quietly. "Before we detected your solar system, our council had voted to abandon the journey. Our supplies were dwindling, our hope fading. Some suggested we power down all but one ship, leaving just a few hundred to continue." His 4 eyes met Reed's gaze. "Your people didn't just repair our ships. You restored our faith." After Krell departed, Reed returned to the observation deck. Below, the first joint human-Torelli space vessel was under construction, a ship designed to explore together rather than to flee alone. In the distance, the main Torelli fleet activated their engines, their new hybrid cores glowing with clean, powerful energy. As they accelerated away from Earth, they left behind not just a transformed planet, but a transformed species. Humanity's first steps into a larger, more connected universe had begun. On a small screen nearby, a news broadcast showed children, Human and Torelli, playing together in the Harmony settlement, already speaking each other's languages, already planning their shared future among the stars.